You know, when this journey first began, I did not know where it was going to lead me. Guess what? The human brain is actually wired to hold on to its first impression of a person. And it resists updating it, even when given clear evidence of change. So it's showing you this person is different. This person is not doing the things that when I first met them they were doing. Yet the brain is like, first impression, that's not what they did when I first met them. And scientists actually call it confirmation bias. In other words, once someone decides who you are, their brain literally works overtime to keep believing it. So if the people in your life refuse to see who you've become, it's not just in their head. There's actual science behind it. Go figure. No matter what. First impression, I guess that's where the saying comes from. First impression is everything, right? Because that's what they're going to always remember. Is they have to work harder to undo what they've seen. Welcome to another episode of A Dose of Nikki, where we get real, we get honest, and we give you exactly what you need, one dose at a time. And that confirmation bias actually beautifully brings us right into today's topic, the version of you they refuse to see. Let me ask you something. Have you ever walked into a room of people who love you? You're like your family, old friends, maybe even a partner, and you felt completely invisible? Not because they weren't looking at you, but because what they were seeing wasn't you. Not anymore. You grown now. You real grown. They see who you used to be. The version of you that was probably quieter, less sure of yourself, very easily manipulated or something to that effect. The version that didn't speak up, didn't set boundaries, or didn't know your worth, basically. And that version needed them in a different way. And now that you've changed, now that you've grown, matured, they don't quite know what to do with you. So instead of celebrating the new you, they try to squeeze you back into the old you, circle into square kind of behavior. They make little comments. You've changed. You're different. You're not the same. And they don't mean it as a compliment either. Nope. They dismiss your new perspective. They bring up old mistakes to remind you of who you were. They question your decisions in ways they never questioned the version of you they preferred. Never. And you know what? It hurts. It really does. It really does. Because these are people who love you. And yet somehow their love has conditions. And one of those conditions is that you stay the same. So I want to share something personal with you. There was a season in my life where I did a lot of inner work. I mean, deep work. I started being intentional about my mindset, my energy, the people that I actually allowed in my space. And I started saying, nope, no, I'm not doing that. And I started choosing myself. And I fully expected the people closest to me to be excited about it. But some of them, not so much. Because when you change, you become a mirror. I want you to think about that. You become a mirror. And sometimes people aren't ready to see what your transformation reflects back at them. See, your growth makes their stagnation uncomfortable. Your boundaries make their dysfunction visible. I'm not doing that craziness right now, that messiness. I'm not doing that with you, boo. Not doing it. See, your joy makes their unhappiness harder to ignore. And rather than sit with that discomfort, that sit still thing we were talking about, they'd rather decide that you've changed for the worse. Can you relate to that? Have you ever been penalized for becoming better? Maybe it was a family member who suddenly called you bougie or diva, or you were too good, or, because you stopped tolerating things you used to accept. Maybe it was a friend who drifted away because you started showing up for yourself. Or was it someone who loved the version of you that was broken? I remember Mary J. Blige. I think about Mary J. Blige, right? That's my girl. Love her, right? And I remember when she started trying to branch out into more, not so downtrodden songs. People weren't feeling it. I hear people, she not singing the same way, because they were used to the old version of her when she was struggling, when she was having the challenges. Now she's coming up out of that. She's feeling good. Nobody want to hear it. You see that? It's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous, redonkulous, as I say. Oh my goodness. Because when we talk about when a person is broken, right? That version needed them. The broken person needed them. Yeah, the person who's, oh gosh. Anyway, here's the truth. Some people were only comfortable with you when you were small, because your smallness made them feel big. So what do we do when the people we love refuse to see us? We're going to stop auditioning for their acceptance. You do not need to prove your growth to anyone. Not anyone, not a soul. You don't need to defend your, evolution. Growth is not a courtroom. No. You don't owe anyone a closing argument for why you've changed. Grieve it. Yes, I said grieve, because there's a real loss in realizing that some people can only love a version of you that no longer exists. I'm no longer 15. I'm no longer 15. I am 40 years old, grown. You know what I mean? That's what you're saying, right? But that's painful. It hurts. It really does. But it's okay to feel that, because you're going to get over it. But just don't let that grief keep you stuck. Keep going anyway. The most dangerous thing you can do is shrink yourself back down so someone else can feel comfortable. I know we've talked about this before. I know. It's just a good reminder. And I'm going to say it every time you, what's the saying? Dim your light. To make someone else feel better, you move further away from the person you were made to be. Now, this goes back to serving our purpose, knowing what our purpose is. And the more you change, the more that you start working on yourself, you are probably working towards being a better version of yourself and serving that purpose that you were made to be. Yes, you were put here to do. And here is something I really want you to sit with today. Now, remember that, sit with it. Sit with it. See, the version of you they refuse to see is often the most powerful version of you. I was so tongue-tied. I was so excited. The version of you that people refuse to see is often the most powerful version of you. The version that scared them. The version that outgrew the story they told about you. The version that chose itself. The version that deserves to exist loudly, unapologetically, and fully. And I want to close with this. You are not responsible for managing someone else's inability to grow with you. You are responsible for honoring who you are becoming. And sometimes, as much as it hurts, that means accepting that not everyone who started the journey with you is meant to continue it. And that's not failure, baby. That's part of the process. So today, I'm inviting you to reflect on this. Where in your life are you still trying to be the version of you that someone else needs you to be? And what would it feel like to finally, fully let yourself be seen? Even if only by yourself first. Because you first have to recognize it within yourself and say, I like this version of me, right? Leave your thoughts in the comments. I would love to know what this episode stirred up for you. Your reflection might be exactly what someone else needs to read. So don't hesitate. And if this episode added value to your life, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and hit the bell icon so you're notified the moment a new episode drops on YouTube. I want to thank you for joining me today on A Dose of Nikki, and this was your dose. And if you enjoyed this episode, join us next week for another insightful conversation. Until next time, be well, be whole, and keep becoming on A Dose of Nikki. Get 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 a dose of Nikki.